Pumpkin.
Yes.
Burrows.
Yes.
Stalfo.
Yes.
Moreno.
Yes.
Vargas.
Yes. May a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
This is the time when community members can make their public comments to the board. Please be aware the board cannot comment anything that is said during this time. This is the only time of the agenda reserved for open public comment. Please limit comments to 4. No public forum, so move on to central administration.
And no fundraising requests for overnight trips to look at, so. Next is. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to speak today about the equity data. I sent it out earlier this week. Just to give you a general overview of the equity team. So really it's made up of the building administrators. We take an admin meeting on a Thursday and we review the data to kind of take some notes on how we can improve. High school gets a little bit more in depth with overall looking at the grade equity and also enrollment in the classes. As far as that goes. When we look at our discrepancies, we look for how it doesn't maybe correlate with our general demographic of our school. And so we're looking for a 10% above or 10% below, and we're looking at those specific groups there. Data examined, that's the unfortunate part what I tell every year, but we look at it, the state really provides that 23-24 data. So still kind of putting some things together, but I create some things that are a little bit more up to date, like the district attendance data, grade data, and extracurricular data for us to look more current at things. So there's the general enrollment data from this last school year, and the special education enrollment I did put on there. Last year's information, 67% were male, and so we had a small drop in that to make it a little bit more equitable between male and female. We'll continue updating our SPED delivery plan. We work with the AA, they do a fantastic job supporting us and our schools, and then also examining and reviewing enrollment and special education procedures as an admin team. Especially the 504. 504 will be taken over by correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, Jen Fry is going to be doing that. And so a small shift in that particular support systems, but certainly something I'll meet with her about equity and kind of looking to make sure that's always in the back of her mind. Tag enrollment is another thing that has shifted gears with Vicky retiring. So that would also be, I believe, Jen Fry, correct, Sean?
That is
tag,
correct.
Yes,
Yep.
Tag enrollment. So again, that's something, as you can see, it kind of fluctuates up and down. But certainly I know from working with the tag teachers and with Vicky over the last 3 years that they have a lot of benchmarks that they use to identify students that are in support tags. So those particular statistics are just something to keep in mind as we move forward with Jen taking over, and then also our keeping track of our benchmarks, making sure we're utilizing all possible opportunities.
For TAG, isn't some of the benchmarks pretty early for some of our like readers? Isn't it like 3rd or 4th grade they start taking them, or?
Yeah, sort of they look at ISAF scores and they look at a lot of different, I can't necessarily speak for specific things, but I know talking with Vicky in the past, they have, 3 or 4 different benchmarks to look at as far as identifying tag students. And so,
Yeah, just what grade do they usually get invited?
I can't, I don't.
Is it 3rd?
Either
think
3rd or 4th. They
Yeah.
start pulling them younger, but as far as funding wise, it doesn't actually count as a tag student until 3rd grade.
Yeah, I mean, because some kids are still learning English by
I
3rd
agree.
grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
so
kind of like,
grades-
it's also like, it's putting students on early math track as well. It's
Yeah.
when they get, but yeah, so that's certainly something as we move forward, and I'll talk with Jen about that also to look at those particular demographics and kind of see where we're at. This is data from 23-24. So our suspensions, although a small group of 2% of the student population, 67% of those, 68% were males. And then also ISS kind of same similarity. So our male demographic is getting a little bit higher on the suspension rate. Not to say that's abnormal across, United States or anything, but certainly it's something for us to look at. adopt restorative practices, look at those particular trainings for administration and staff members on how we can maybe isolate those situations from escalating to a suspension, and also strengthen early intervention. So if we see those things at the beginning of the school year, how can we build relationships with those students that that may have behavioral issues, and working with parents as well.
And are those unique students or instances?
I believe they tag them as students. I want to say that, yeah. And then, so an update to the activities counter. This is something that I create to help us out, to look at our involvement. This year, I ran the report, and with Deb switching and Shelby taking over, the tagging system changed just a little bit. So Shelby did a great job of tagging the sports, but it's on me for not letting her know to also tag some of those other extracurricular activities within the Infinite Campus system. So I'm working with her to get that updated so that we'll have this consistent database that helps us look at where we need to offer more support, or the demographics there that everybody's getting involved. But I did with the sports, we did have just one less student go out for sports. So I think that that's great that we have a lot of students involved in extracurricular activities. And certainly when I put in the other data, and I'll share that with you when I get that completed, so you can look at how our other clubs are doing and stuff. But I think that's really great. The high school does a good job of increasing awareness for activities. They have an activities fair for students at the beginning of the year to talk about clubs and different options for them. And then also coaches and brought do a great job of promoting their sports, and also continue increasing student involvement. So that's always something that we're really passionate about. If we look at, as a stat, if we look at the I'm going to say 6% of students who maybe had failed one or more classes this last trimester at the high school level, I would say 80 to 85% are not involved in any activity and or sport, and very rarely attend stuff. So I know that if we really want to make an impact on that 6% of students, I think, promoting more activities, really honing out how we can find out what they're interested in and get them more involved and offer them opportunities beyond just classroom and then going home. And in some cases, they do have to work and things, but certainly find avenues for them to feel connected to the school and more engaged, which then would hopefully increase their academics and things. So that's something we're always looking at, and especially my role at the middle school, I'm going to try to influence that early at the 5th grade level, is really promote being involved in clubs and things, and then hopefully that transitions up to the high school level, attending events and things. Also proposing students attend high school winter events for free. That's something I'm working with Adam on. I know it's something that's always on our docket of something to do, but I think we have sort of a low in student participation within our winter sports. I think if you look at kind of fall sports, our volleyball players go to the football games and our football players go to the volleyball games. So it's like a good atmosphere. And then when we get to basketball season, it's kind of everybody's playing at the same time. So hopefully we can increase, if we maybe perhaps offer a free admission, we might get more students involved, hence then more engaged in school, and get more students involved and more passionate about West Liberty. And then obviously always something that I know Adam works hard with is coach retention, and then creating that culture of consistency in a program. That's something we're always looking for. High school course enrollment. Again, this is a database that I created because, again, we were looking at data from 2 years ago for enrollment. And so this is something that you can look at as well. But it's something our teachers looked at consistently after each trimester to see if there's any discrepancies as far as our demographics and see how we can make adjustments to that. I think it was eye-opening for a couple of teachers to kind of see who is predominantly getting A's and then D's and F's. So that was a good analysis there. Oh, there we go. And so that link up there will allow you to look at the grade data for each of the trimesters at the high school this last year. We did have last year we were in a situation where we had 70% of our Hispanic population was getting the D's and F's. Or of that demographic of people getting D's and F's, 70% were Hispanic. And then we had a drop in that in this last school year. And then just general overall observations of our grade data, 45% of our F's come from 9th grade. That's something, as my role as assistant principal is very aware, and we tried different solutions and interventions to help that. I think that's just something that we had keep in our mind, and then creating some things within advisement to kind of assist those students being more more active and passing classes. And then it was very, very equitable data across A minus A's and A pluses across pretty consistent, both ethnicity, male, female. So, and then also ninth through 12th grade. So I was really impressed with that. And then, so getting recommendations, we'll continue student grade awareness and after school CAP program. We'll be still doing that. Analyze students in this category and cross-reference with attendance to provide support. And then review resources available to students with D's and F's and inform parents, especially with that ninth grade group, maybe, or work towards being more proactive at the beginning of the school year to get informed with them and let them know those students that need support and get involved early. And then obviously the outside organizations with upper bound. At the end of this year, I provided them with a D and F list for their group. I think that really helped out. I should have been doing that the whole year, but certainly that's something we'll consistently do next year. I think they really liked it because they allowed them to do more on the spot tutoring as opposed to just generalized, does anybody need help? So. Attendance data, another database that you can look at through the whole year. So we did have an increase at the middle school of those students with absent unexcused, 78% were Hispanic at the middle school. And then we had a drop at the high school level of, it was 72.4% last year, now it's 62%. So recommendations to lower that, especially at the middle school, is just making sure that parents are well informed of how to notify the office. Sometimes what I've noticed is that it gets marked absent unexcused because this parent or guardian does not know how to call in or that process. And so really being adamant about making sure they know. And then obviously talking to parents and students about the importance of being on time, continue to have those conferences as needed. And then last year, our goal was to make sure that all the schools had the same codes and procedures for that. And I think we're doing a very good job. That's pretty consistent as of now. We adopted very similar codes this last school year. So with the help of Kara Cruz. So goals for this school year, this upcoming school year. So review state enrollment in the high school courses. So part of their PD at the beginning of the school year is look at that data from last year. I'm going to share the database with all district staff. I think that's important to be transparent, just kind of open up the door to different things. And some people may bring stuff to my attention that I wasn't aware of. So that's always good to disperse that information. I'll continue to update the attendance databases for all the school on a weekly basis. That helped us identify our chronic absenteeism students and getting those letters out. So I'll continue doing that. And then also meet with building BLTs on equity data review. So that's something they can insert in there. Does anybody have any additional comment, questions, recommendations at all?
Do you happen to have the 23-24 data for pass fail? You had listed in there that 45% was from the freshmen this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see if that's a continued 45% year over year, if this one is a particularly bad year, so on and so.
You're talking about that specific class, how they did in 8th grade compared to this year?
No, I'm more seeing like, okay, freshman year, we expect 45%, no matter what the cohort is, or this cohort in particular was 45%. Last year was 50 or 30.
I would say just based on, I can look it up to give you a direct number, but I would say that this is abnormal, I guess, compared to last year.
Okay.
That's what kind of alerted us as the at-risk team and administration and teachers. It's like, we're finding that this freshman class they're struggling just a little bit more in comparison to last.
Yeah, because I think if it was a consistent 9th grade issue, then obviously you're solving it in 8th grade, right?
Yeah.
It's the transition more so than anything.
Well, I was wondering too, if it's the same class, like is there a 9th grade class that's really tripping them up? Is it like in English or is it a math or is it like a certain subject area or something that's really holding them back or is it just in general?
I think, I guess I used to speak as the generalized, I think it's just the transition is one thing. They also struggled. They were kind of our high flyers in attendance, like tardies and things to classes. And so we tried to combat a couple interventions with them on, we had even a competition between the advisements and that seemed to help get the awareness up a little bit. But I would say, I think it is a transition and just the ability to handle the course load to look at one specific class, I could dive in and kind of look and I can get that information to you if that was something you'd like.
And then does, what is it, Unbound or Bound or
Up and
that
Down.
sport? No, the sports thing where you log in,
Bound.
Bound,
Yeah.
and you register, are you using that data too, or just your own? Because it seems like to me that would be, doesn't every student have to be in there to
Yeah.
be in a sport? And
I could use that stuff. Yeah, I could use it for the sports, but I don't think, I'll have to check. I don't think like, improv or like our clubs are in
Yeah,
there.
it doesn't seem, I remember it just having like the sports and maybe a marching band was gonna
Yeah.
start being in there.
Yep.
But yeah, I was wondering if that's gonna be how it's gonna move forward, or is it that stuff gonna be, all that gonna be in there so you can track it better, or do you think you're always gonna have your own?
I think if I want to get the overall look at, like all the clubs and activities and stuff, I think I would have to, it's pretty simple. I just got to run a report off, Infinite Campus and then put it in a database and then it'll do its magic there forward. So it's not too bad. But I certainly, and again, that's on me for not telling Shelby what to put in. And so we're working on that this week on getting that updated. So hopefully moving forward, we won't have this hiccup, but when I run the report, not everything shows up.
Now with the chronic absenteeism, a little off course here, but
No problem.
have we seen a lot more of the legal issues come up with parents not having their students in? I know there's legislation, I'll say 2 years ago, that really like cracked down on that. Have we seen an issue with that? I know that there was a big worry when it all came out, and I don't know that was completely founded yet. But there was like not a lot of discretion in our hands either.
Yeah, we came up with a pretty good system at the beginning of the school year that kind of tagged, like, every administrator had access to their database on a weekly basis so they could trigger, like, if they needed to contact parents. We sent out letters, like 15%, 20%, and then had meetings with parents. And from talking with the other administrators, when we had those meetings with the parent and the student, it had a positive effect on their attendance.
Okay, yeah.
We never got to a point where we had to notify the district attorney or the attorney, the county attorney, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, there is a certain point where we don't even get a choice not to, right?
Yeah.
It used to be a choice to handle it that way, but yeah.
And I think they've recently updated that again to make it again back on the
Awesome.
districts as discrepancy if I'm wrong.
They changed the certified letter,
Yeah.
to where we don't have to do that anymore.
Awesome.
And then there's a couple other items in there that changed wording. They added a couple exemptions, military, some religious exemptions, et cetera. But I think our buildings really were very proactive and did a great job of heading a lot of that off to where it didn't get to the point to where people really even needed to get involved with the court system. So, yeah.
Awesome.
I have a question. So you said that you're gonna add the club stuff and get us another.
Yes, yeah, I can do that too.
And with respect to sports, yeah, I think we noticed coaches kind of changing and there's some consistency there and probably enrollment in every coach. As far as the goals for attendance, grades and all that, do the coaches, do they understand that's part of their job? And do they have like a consistent script or kind of way that we ask for them to give that to the students?
Yeah, good question. So as far as like a consistent script that they would read to the student, we don't have anything in place in that regard, but I send an email every week to all the players on our team with a D or an F. And then they also get a weekly attendance, daily attendance email. So it'll show like what students were absent from their classes on their particular teams. And so the general idea, Adam and I work together to kind of inform the coaches of those things and what to do. If we have a student who is absent or excused from a class that can't participate that night in any practice and or thing. So, and then also we have that 2-week rule with the grades. And so I think that's had a huge impact on us having 94% of our student body pass in all their classes. I think that's a culture shift for our students to understand the importance of academics over sports. And I think the coaches have really been great in also emphasizing that when they get the notice of Ds and Fs. But yeah, I like the idea of having perhaps a more prioritized meeting on what conversations we expect to come from those. I think that would be a good idea.
What do you think with the cell phone policy that's gonna be coming next year? Is that gonna help in?
The academics and things?
Yeah.
I think so. I think at this point in time, I speak from the high school, that's where I'm coming from. I know that we have some systems in place already that adhere to what the state is requiring. But certainly with the state having some of those things in place, I think it does give a little bit more of a backbone to say, like, this is the policy, this is what we gotta uphold you to. And so I think that's great. At the middle school level, I think Vicky did a great job of students have their cell phones in their lockers, and that's a pretty tight line that students understand that rule. So I'd say mostly the cell phone policy would more be in high school concern. But again, our teachers have great policies in place, pockets that students can put them in and things like that, that make sure they don't have the devices in their hand. So, but certainly if we increase that, obviously academics would improve with less distractions in any case.
And then one last one.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about legislation, and there's other legislation and policy that's occurring in Iowa now more than before with immigration, deportations, that kind of thing. So I think maybe we're going to see some more absenteeism if there's fear or concern by parents and kids. So I know it's very important that we have a good policy in place on how to deal with it, and I know we do, but we need to make that like known.
Yeah.
Yeah, to the parents and to the kids more, and I think it's probably more important now than ever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I think that's important, like especially bridging that gap of communication, like I mentioned, if we have such a high abstinence excuse, is it just because the parent or guardian doesn't know the procedure? And certainly if those are hindering a student from attending school, then just need to communicate it with the school so we can put in the attendance accordingly. As opposed to just asking an excuse where we don't know where they are. And so.
right, so kind of
And then are you gonna stay equity like for all of the district when you move to the?
Yes. Yeah.
And then will that be complicated trying to keep track of all like the high school stuff, or do you think that since you won't be in the building as much anymore?
Well, it's all just, it's simplistic in the sense that I just gotta run a report and stick it into a Google Sheet. And so.
But you seem more hands-on than that.
I mean, the implementation of interventions, yes, I will not be a part of that.
Okay.
But providing the data and getting the data to teachers to examine and things like that, I will continue doing that. It's also a hobby of mine is to do Google Sheets and data. So I love that stuff. So it's actually fun. So I do like my position because I do get to look at data and kind of look at discrepancies. So I'll continue that role. But again, working with Brad over at the high school, we talked a lot about interventions and what that looks like to continue.
Because he'll probably have to take up that in where you were there last time. Some of the interventions and stuff like that, and like working with the coaches on those lists, right? Or
yeah, that's something we gotta kind of look at. I did work with him on how to run all the reports and stuff, so I'm gonna create a couple videos. So hopefully the transition is seamless for Adam and the coaches and everybody so that we can keep that increase in grades and just making sure there's a clear communication between coaches and teachers and stuff. So, yeah. But I know the coaches really appreciate it. They've mentioned that they'd like to know what's going on. So.
and I like the use of Upward Bound in other clubs too, because I do agree that if they're gonna be working with the students, it'd be nice if they knew what to work with them on, and they do spend a lot of time tutoring them.
Yep.
So if there were definitely outside clubs that need to be formed.
Yeah, and I wish I would have jumped on that earlier, but but hey, it's the last trimester, so we'll continue doing that this coming year too. So.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. Yep.
This next item, the open enrollment request, so this is one that's been communicated to everyone previously from Sean. Lone Tree just reached out and they passed it through their board and they just felt more comfortable if we actually went through the board to do that. So.
I'll make a motion to approve the open enrollment request.
Well, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then.
legislative priorities that you have to set. Every year I included what was chosen last year, and then in the packet, there's the long list of them.
Is it the one with the
Once they
platform?
start, like, once they start giving numbers to stuff, legislative resolution starts on page 14. I think that's where it's like the subsections of that are what
Oh,
we
okay.
selected. One of the ones that I was thinking would kind of deviate from our norm as it's new in this packet would be the unfunded mandates. It seems like the intention of that one is to push back on legislation that's passed and requirements that are passed that don't come with any dollars and cost us money. So while right now we're okay more often than not to take the hit, there could come a time that we can't. So I would think that would be an important one to bring top of mind. On page 22.
So,
Yeah, it seems when, like I was looking back after 23 ones, it's kind of a cut and paste thing they do here. So
Pretty much.
I don't remember no changes.
I don't remember that one. And then they also added, of course, the private school choice, which
Mhm.
obviously I don't support. So to make that clear.
I'll hear that.
You should have no choices. I always think that's-
I think the school safety is important. It'd be nice if there was one more bullet. Well, maybe it's in here for like mental health.
There is a there's,
number 4, right, or
yeah,
I think that one's really.
yeah. Four.
Number
Page
4.
17.
And it has the
And we
absentee.
picked that in the past.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I think like the last 3 or 4
Yeah.
go arounds on this.
I think that was gonna be super.
I would agree.
I think, just going back up to the, I mean, and keeping it, I know we say this every time, but I feel sometimes I hear, you hear talk of not funding, English learners or the cutting of funding for English learners. So it's in like the first one there, so literacy, and just if it is fallen upon us to have to fund or find resources for it, it's definitely a priority we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the top of my list too, just with those topics and how that affects our district specifically.
I guess I think the parent-family engagement based on what we're just hearing and is really important. And I don't know if we apparently didn't have that last time, but having that helicopter parent mentality is, challenging, but it's good.
That's like number 3 then, the engaging educational experiences.
Number 5, it
Oh,
has.
number 5.
And so that parent and family engagement.
Okay.
Where we at on 5 now?
Yeah, it's hard to
It's always.
say
hard
all of
to-
these, yeah, feel important.
It's all about.
I mean, I guess last time we did focus on teacher retention and licensure, but maybe since they did do the pay raise that we have kind of that one covered, so we could focus on the other one, maybe.
Any others that are hot and burning for?
I still think the supplemental state aid is a big one, just because it's such an issue every year, and it's just kind of have to have the financial solvency to be successful.
It puts us at 5. What one would we want to trim from? Do we have any more? That anybody likes us?
Can you summarize the
Great
thing?
ones, yeah.
Well, just the ones that were mentioned anyway, unfunded mandates, English learners, mental health. parent and family engagement. And SSA.
I would be in favor of trading out the teacher recruitment licensure for the parent family engagement, because I think it affects our district so much. Because the supplemental state aid is the same thing as what we're saying with the mandates, right? Is that the same?
Yeah, I mean.
More or less, yeah.
Like funding.
I mean, we could probably just.
Give
we
us
could-
money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please don't have.
Yeah,
I don't know which one.
no,
We can keep SSA, it's fine.
they just don't talk about as much of like
What they're gonna do.
underfunded.
So ELO or EL as it's listed in here, mental health, parent and family engagement, and SSA. Everybody good with this?
I would make a motion to change that. Yeah,
I will second.
all in favor? Aye. Aye. Mandatory changes.
Just a short list.
Mhm.
The only thing I noticed, other than stuff that's far beyond our control, page 27, there's a misspelling. Fourth paragraph, chronic absenteeism and truancy, chronic is misspelled.
Renee?
Yep. Proves that I read it. You're welcome, everyone. A lot of words that were added, that was for sure.
Sketch.
I always like to read what they crossed off and you're like, it's not really different. I mean, it's definitely, I changed that, or sometimes it is completely different. You're like, now I feel like you're making things up.
Well, in this case, it's pretty obvious what we're doing.
Yeah, I know. There's certain words that don't leave me eliminating.
Otherwise, since this is one and final, does anybody else have anything? Not, I'll make a motion to approve pending the change.
A second. All in favor?
Consent agenda. Minutes from the meeting in June, warrants. Treasurer's reports are all in there, some coaching. Evaluation of the teacher. Which was communicated. Coaching as well, and then. Yeah, items, so.
Do we have any bites so far in some of the coaching? I mean, how do you feel like it's shaping out? I mean, it's such a long meetings before, so I just didn't know if you've had some interest already.
I know Adams had a couple names tossed his way, and he was following through. I don't know that, how well his leads have panned out at this point. Yeah, it's kind of tough. We don't have the teacher vacancies that go along with those and.
Yep. What about the fourth grade teachers? Any chance we're gonna actually get someone?
Yeah, I mean, this late in the game, I would anticipate maybe we get, a few applicants. I've talked to Kirk about it, we could hire someone, we could do like a long-term sub. It would be a year of probation regardless. I mean, that first year is always a probationary year. We also have our 3 long-term, full-time subs that could help out. So I mean, I think we do have, some options to fill that position or, get us to December, with our graduates, December graduates, might get some applicants at that point. So. Yeah, we'll just have to see how that shakes out, but there's definitely a backup plan, we do have our long-term subs that we could lean on to at least start the year. We have an extremely good one in elementary that's really helped us out in the past, so I would anticipate that we could utilize that person again. If needed.
I mean, I suppose you guys always reach out to people that didn't take other positions, or if you had like a couple of good
I know
ones.
we had a couple names, of people who's gonna call, yeah, correct.
All right, now motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
I-
All right, so next meeting will be Monday, August 18th. Here, and then we'll do the consent agenda, activities report, and anything else you guys might have. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And then. 30, not bad.